it has been exceptionally hard over the past couple of years being Jewish, and being on the right side of history. And I imagine even for you, Jordan, I mean, I know that you're married into an Israeli family, and that cannot be easy for you right now to be sort of like walking that line. So would you talk a little bit about that, like how that's been for you as a Jewish person? And I also know your dad is a Zio, and that you come from that, like not my dad, but my family is definitely Zionist. But what's that like for you navigating this right now?
Honestly, dealing with my wife and her family is a breath of fresh air compared to my immediate family.
Oh,
My father might as well be Moses.
oh my God.
He's one of those God gave us the land kind of dudes, and he was in a radical camp. You probably have covered them, and group known as Beitar, growing up. So before October 7th, I just never really, I had fought with him too much about Israel. So it just became one of those things we just stopped talking about because what was the point? I'm not going to change his mind. But obviously, there was no ignoring it after October 7th. So we've had a few blow-ups. My mom also, she's less like religious. My dad's like religious. He goes to temple twice a week. My mom is more just like these, boomer liberal Jews who think, Israel could do no wrong, and you take one of mine, I'm going to take two of yours, kind of mentality. My dad and I had it out probably 2 years ago, because he gave me some spiel about this is our land, God gave it to us, and I said, paraphrasing, aren't you a little old for fairy tales? And it almost got violent. But yeah, I mean, listen, compared to what people are dealing with in Gaza, don't cry any tears for me. But yeah, it does create tension. They obviously support what I do and the stories I cover. Other than that, they do not like that we've probably covered more of the actually, we have definitely covered more of the pro-Palestine protests around the country than any other outlet. And I always get, well, why don't you cover any of the, bring the hostage back? I'm like, because it's like three old ladies out on a Saturday morning. That's why. And in terms of the scale of suffering, one's a lot worse. So, yeah, it's created tension, but, it is what it is. Even with family, I'm not the only one who's had friction and tension with their family.
Yeah. Katie, what about you? I mean, I don't think you were raised Zio or not by your parents.
I would say I was more non-Zionist than anti-Zionist, but now I'm obviously anti-Zionist, and my parents and I see eye to eye. Not my extended family, although I do have a relative who I tell this story a lot. He emailed me and he was like, I guess you were right. And then he wrote in parentheses, or hard left or extreme left on Israel. And the thing that woke him up on this, interestingly enough, was no other land, because I think the fact that these things were being done to Palestinians before October 7th kind of allows you to bypass the but Hamas, but October 7th propaganda that short circuits a lot of people's minds. So, but I mean, I totally agree with what Jordan said. Like, yeah, there's tension that Jews are navigating, but it's really, I mean, that is like so walk in the park compared to Palestinians in the diaspora who have their, humanity like diminished every day. And of course, Palestinians in Gaza or in the rest of, of Palestine. But sure, there is an interesting thing happening right now. I guess for me, the most interesting thing about the Jewish issue is that it's just ironic because I don't talk about this issue as a question of like self-preservation, but it is now a question of self-preservation. And I don't want to be hyperbolic, and I certainly don't want to pretend that there's an anti-Semitism crisis. And I want to be very clear that 90% of the time that people talk about anti-Semitism, they're just talking about anti-Zionism and pretending it's anti-Semitism, or not even anti-Zionism, criticism of Israel. But the irony is then Jews tell me, or Jews like you, I'm sure you get this, that we're self-loathing, that we're anti-Semitic, that we're creating anti-Semitism, we're contributing to anti-Semitism. It's like, no, the Jews who are speaking out are the only ones who are challenging anti-Semitism. Like, newsflash, I would like you to be on the right side of this issue because it's the moral thing to do, and it's pretty clear. But I'm not kind of above trying to appeal to people if they're not going to move in any other ways. Like, this isn't good for the Jews. Like, they're live streaming a genocide. They're saying it's in the name of Jews. If you care about Jewish safety, as you claim, you have to wake up and realize that Israel is not making you safe. It's putting you at risk. And the thing that you want to do if you want to battle anti-Semitism is speak out against Israel, not co-sign it. I mean, again, that's not the most important moral framework at all. It's not a particularly, actually, it's not a moral one at all. It's not immoral per se, but it's amoral, as in moral, one word. But I do think it's just ironic. And I think that people probably need to be woken up to that. And I don't know. But yeah, in terms of what people are going through, I do think that sometimes we lose sight of how hard it is for, Palestinians here, because again, every day, and obviously the genocide is happening there, right? But I do think that something that a lot of people are unaware of is what it must feel like to see the things that you see when you're a Palestinian American or Palestinian, whatever, French, anywhere, not living in Palestine, and just knowing that so many of the elites and the powerful, not the masses, but the people with power, are fine, laughing at you, joking about you, like we saw with Van Jones. Just like building your dehumanization into their analysis in such a casual way.
Well, the only thing I think that is positive, but wait, Peter, is that it is shifting. Because 3 years ago, nobody was real. We were talking about this, but most people were not talking about this. And I do think that Palestinians in the diaspora, especially, are seeing global support at a level that they've never felt before.
Yeah, it's definitely from the people, it is. Yes. And from the governments and the media, it's not, but yeah.
For such a cynical guy as he tends to come off, all of us have had the privilege of speaking with Norman Finkelstein, and he's got quite a sense of humor, I have to say, in spite of everything. He definitely knows how to put people in their place. Jordan, I think a good way to talk about what's going on in Chicago is I think so much of what we're seeing over in Gaza is an example of how we said that this is eventually going to come home. The incessant violence was eventually going to find its way to the States, because now what we're seeing is a country that is getting restless, and especially a significant portion of MAGA that is getting restless with the president. So naturally, it looks like we're heading into some form of a police state. We saw these cop cities that popped up over the last several years. Jen went to one of them in northern Georgia. And so now—
I went to the one in Atlanta. What are you talking about?
Well, that is northern Georgia. So
no, it's not. Go.
Yes, it is. Anyway, point being is that now we are seeing the weaponry shown on our own people, and it's only going to get worse. And if you could share a little bit about what you've seen and what we can expect to see more of going forward, that would be very helpful for many who may not even be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, my bad. I should have actually sent this clip to you for tonight, but I interviewed the other day a photographer who was just taking pictures outside of the Broadview Detention Center. That's the main one right outside of Chicago, where, it looks like Fallujah. They're tear gassing, stun grenades, pepper sprays, have snipers on the roof shooting at people. If you saw the other day, they shot a pastor in the head. And my cameraman was tear gassed pretty bad. My new reporter was tear gassed. So there was footage. This was kind of on a calm day, just a photographer taking photos of the ICE agents, the Border Patrol. And it was like Call of Duty style. They just opened fire on him, like 4 or 5 agents shooting pepper balls. And I think the media, people become numb. They just hear like rubber bullets and pepper balls and don't realize like you could get really fucking injured from these things. Actually, you could die from rubber bullets if you get shot in a certain way. When I was at Standing Rock, a guy got shot with a rubber bullet in his head. His scalp nearly came off. I bring this up because I interviewed the photographer who got shot up with the pepper bullets, and he's Palestinian, which I didn't know. And he told me that he was over in the West Bank, I believe, a little after October 7th. And what he saw from the IDF is exactly how ICE is acting here. And that connection really struck me because these ICE, I don't know what you would call them other than thugs, that the cruelty is the point. You know, they're even detaining children on the side of the road. I saw a video of that the other day. You know, elderly people, they're taking kids and zip tying them. This is what the IDF has done. I mean, long before October 7th, frankly. But obviously people have seen it worse since. So I think you're seeing, and speaking of Cop City, that militarized police compound that got so little attention, and Jen was there and we covered it on the ground, they were going to be trained or partnering in training with the IDF. We know the NYPD has done training with a lot of police departments in America have done training with the IDF. And don't even get me started on Palantir and the surveillance state and the IDF. So I think what you're seeing here, I don't want people to get, you know, I think people get a false sense sometimes that this brutality is new. It's a lot worse, to be clear. I don't want to give a false equivalence. What Trump is doing is a lot worse than we've seen. But there was this violence and kind of state thuggery before Trump. We saw it at Standing Rock. We've seen it at Black Lives Matter protests. Now it's just on a different level. But how he basically said, this is exactly what I see ICE doing is exactly what I saw the IDF doing. It should scare the living shit out of Americans.
Yeah. Well, Katie, you know this, like, you know that Palestine's the laboratory, right? Like everything that goes on there comes here.
Yeah, I mean, the what is it? The chickens coming home to roost, the imperial boomerang theory. I think we're seeing a lot of that. And I actually really appreciate something you just said, Jordan, because I think that we see two tendencies often, which is that there's a lot of, I hate to be a nuanced cuck, but sometimes people make it seem like Trump is a total departure and aberration, and we've never had anything like this. And then I would say, like, most people say that, right? And then we have some people who are, I agree with in many ways, who are my fellow leftists, who say that Trump is really not unique at all. He's just more of the same, and there's stylistic changes. But there is not just a qualitative, but a quantitative difference in many cases. Although it's interesting because with the immigration issue, it actually is more qualitative than quantitative. Because if you look at the numbers of deportations, it's not actually as high as Trump would like you. And again, it's too high. But in terms of how much more he's doing it than Biden, the numbers don't really bear that out. But what they do bear out is the spectacle of cruelty, which we're seeing, which is, I mean, I'm not dismissing the importance of that. It is traumatic. It has a real chilling effect. It makes people feel afraid. And it's torture and violence for the people experiencing it. I am hoping that people will realize that, you know, this is not the reason that you don't have health care or you can't afford eggs is not because of people who are undocumented. I'm hoping that people can make that point. And it would be great if Democrats made that point more effectively instead of kind of just being like Republican light when it comes to immigration, because they're never going to satisfy the people who vote on the border alone. And all they're doing is kind of helping create more of this dystopian, sadistic environment.